I am Farrukh Ahmed. I'm currently working as Deputy General Manager. Okay, so first I would like to give you some introduction about myself. I am Farrukh Ahmed. I'm currently working as Deputy General Manager with Pakistan State Oil in the Environment, Social and Governance Department. As you know, PSO is the market leader when it comes to providing the energy needs of the country. We have about 50% of the country is fuel we are getting from the local refineries as well. So majority of the supplies to the for fuel needs, including aviation, defense requirements and everything, that's done by PSO. So we have a very important role in managing the energy needs of the country. And then
Yes.
the newly established ESGs to ensure that the business of PSO runs on a very sustainable way. We act as a responsible corporate social entity because although we are state-owned enterprise, but we are moving towards a corporate mode of governance. So it's not just state-run. So now it's almost an autonomous body, but managed by the Ministry of Petroleum. Previously, I have worked in the manufacturing industry with Best Way Cement, who are the market leaders in manufacturing of cement, along with Lucky Cement. Before that, I was working on the renewable energy sector with HUBCO, which was at that time the biggest IPP of Pakistan. Then I worked with China Three Gorges South Asia Investment Limited. China Three Gorges who is the largest renewable energy company in the world. In Pakistan, I was managing their hydro and wind projects. I've also worked on the solar power projects, which are more than 120 megawatts. I've also worked on the clean development mechanism under United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And I've also worked on major projects like the Recodic project, extension of Kudu thermal power project, which included an assessment of the impacts on Indus blind dolphin, which are unique to this ecosystem. So over the past 15 years, I have worked in different capacities, and now I'm working as a lead for the ESG at Pakistan State Oil.
Amazing, sir. Sir, I want to know that how your overall professional journey, the key milestone that shaped your career, how you achieved the role.
Well, it's a good question, and it's very difficult to answer shortly, but I'll try and make it brief. I
Sure,
was
sir.
lucky with the first break that I got at a consulting services, that is Hegler Bailey Pakistan, which are the leading environmental consultants in the country at that time as well, and for now, they are also the market leaders. Uh, there were some basics that I learned at Hegler Bailey that one should always be very professional about the way they conduct themselves on and off the field. We were made to respond to queries from the internal and external customers within 24 hours. The business ethics at really were very strong. The whole management was aligned with meeting the customer's requirements. And at all times, we made sure that whatever commitment a team has made, it has to be completed. It does not matter if somebody is not well, if somebody has some other commitments or due to any unforeseen events. All team members had to come together and make sure that if there is a commitment towards an external or an internal client, we have to deliver on time. So there was a lot of effort that went into it. There was a lot of hard work that went into it. And then sometimes you have to go the extra mile, as they say, that burn the midnight or lamp oil. So that's how initially the experience and the exposure at Hagler Bailey made me into the professional that I am today. And I'm very thankful to them because there are a lot of companies in Pakistan which are doing great business, but their work ethic and their corporate ethics are not very well defined. But working there, they gave me a lot of life lessons, which are still helping me today, 15 years after joining Hegler Bailey.
Understanding your journey, it gives us very valuable insight to me and for my organization. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, building on your inspiring career path, could you elaborate on your approach to strategic planning and goal setting at the organizational level, specifically in the context of your ESG?
Okay, excuse me. Well, goal, you you have to, one of the major things to consider is the nature of business of the organization you are working with. Because one goal for one industry cannot be suitable for another industry, right? So there's a lot
Absolutely.
of thought process that needs to go into it. Then you need to see what are the business needs of this and the future outlook. Because the goals that you set today must be future proof as well, as we are moving towards sustainability, reduction in greenhouse gases, emissions, carbon footprint reductions, sustainability, inclusion, diversity, governance. So all of these things need to be part of your business ethic. And then once you have understood the nature of your business, the future planning, the future outlook, and the general policy lines, then it's easy to align your goals with your organization's goals. Because if you set your goals in a silo, it's not going to help your own cause, it's not going to help your team's cause, and eventually they are not going to be helpful to the organization going forward as well. So it's always good to understand the business needs, it's always good to understand the policy requirements and the general direction in which the business is going to go in the near and long term.
Thank you so much, sir. So, effective planning is the backbone of any organizational success, especially in the dynamic sectors. So, when it comes to implementing major initiatives such as launching new services or taking new initiative, how do you prioritize to ensure these changing aligning with your organization?
So when change in any setting, the basic human response is to change. You might have seen in your professional easy. So whenever somebody is going to implement a change, for that to happen, first they need to create that environment. They need to see that how conducive their environment is. And then if it's not very conducive to change, then they need to see and to look for people who are always. So when you align yourself with such people, it's always easy to propagate your idea, to help with the early adoption, because there are some people in the organization who are open to change and for early adoption. So will start propagating. People will see that those people who have adopted it, they are sitting on the fence, who are or who are reluctant in adopting to this change. So eventually, all of these people will, once people have accepted this change, then it's easy to implement.
Okay, so it means you basically, do you think employee engagement?
And then unless from the people take.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Go on, I think, for your question.
Okay. Sir, prioritizing effectively often determine the success of major organizational shift. Innovation and culture go hand in hand in shaping a successful organization. As a leader in the traditional structure industry, how do you foster innovation within your team while maintaining strong, cohesive company culture at PSO?
Well, the problem with cultural change is that it takes a very long time, because changes are sometimes they can happen quickly, but the thing is that if you do not follow them up effectively with major steps and back them up with the policy alignment, then there is always a chance that the changes that you have made, right? they can always come back. They can be rolled back due to change of personnel, due to change of policy, due to change of the economic situation, or due to a major change in the global scheme of things. So that is why it's important to sustain a change. It has to be backed up with resources. It has to be backed up with the management's commitment. It has to be backed up with the right kind of people on board. So my emphasis would be that the change should be a holistic change, and it should not be like once we have done something and then you stop following up and you imagine that some people are going to do it on their own. There is a lot of hand holding required at the start. Then there is a lot of refreshers that are required, and then from time to time you need to raise the bar. So progressive change is always sustainable, and it ends up making the cultural has adopted. It becomes part of the culture, the freshers and everything. That kind of a support or that kind of a pressure on the implementing team, it has been, it would lessen, and it would be now part of the culture, and it would be sustainable.
Okay, great. It's fascinating to understand how leaders drive innovation in the environment that are often seen as conventional. Uh, in a rapidly evolving industry, balancing your short-term challenges with long-term growth is critical. How do you ensure that immediate change issues like market fluctuation and all of that thing? How will you uh, cater that things?
Can you please repeat the question?
Uh, s-
There
I want to,
was
yeah, okay.
an interruption in your.
Okay, sorry, sir. I want to ask that rapidly evolving industry, dynamic market, balancing short-term challenges with long-term growth is critical. So, how do you ensure that immediate issues like market fluctuation or customers' demand, uh, how do you cater that?
There are two ways of doing it, and the better way of doing it is that first, whoever is within your team, you need to get them on board. They need to understand that whatever we are trying to do may not always work and may not always be the correct strategy. So, if there is a change response in the market, be in this internally or externally, we have to always be flexible with rethinking our commitments, with rethinking our strategy. And if things are not happening, or there should always be a session where we can sit together, rethink the policy and our strategy, and then try and, manage things as they are. The other part of your question is that if there are some changes, that so it's very common. It happens in almost all the business they open. This is a change in demand. We need to adapt. We cannot be rigid in our approach. So that's the kind of way that we operate right now as well. And going forward, we need to be flexible, fluid in our response and approach. And that's how we will maintain our position at the top. Otherwise, we may not be at the top in a few years from now.
Balancing the present with the future is undoubtedly a key test of the leadership. So, in the risk management, especially in PSO, risk management is a cornerstone of this sector. How do you assess the areas like environmental operation or, sorry, regulatory compliance? How did you manage that thing?
For the different departments whose key function is to assess these kind of requirements. Like we have a legal team, an industrial relations team, a government relations team, who are always on the lookout on the compliance part. and compliance is essential because we are a state-owned enterprise, and there are a lot of obligations from the government of Pakistan and other treaties which the country is signatory to. So these are the things which are always on the lookout for, and then therein comes the role of the planning department. So the planning department is always meticulously looking at the previous information, the changes which are happening in the local, regional, and international markets. And also sometimes in a fragile country like Pakistan, where there is always a potential for politically influenced or regional instability due to many external factors. So those kinds of uh, sensitivities are always part of our planning, and we are to be one step ahead of the situation. And this is why you might have seen that in the recent past, where there have been so many interruptions in the supply chain internationally, like in COVID, or domestically due to the different kind of protests that were taking place. So the supply of fuel to all parts of the country remained largely uninterrupted. There was no a report of people saying that we are out of fuel or even there are some other requirements. So this tells you that the people working in the legal department and the people working in the planning department are doing a great job. And that's why you need subject matter experts doing that kind of a job. So this is how we do it. And I'm sure other companies are going to follow suit as well.
Understanding risk strategies from an experienced leader like yourself provides invaluable learning for aspiring professionals. Sir, reflecting on your career, what has been the greatest challenge you have faced as a senior leader in this sector, and how did you navigate through
So
it?
the greatest challenge that we had was in the famous Suomorto case, where there was a matter of drying up of Katasraj, which is a Hindu temple in Chakwal district of Pakistan, and religious value to the Hindu community in the Indian subcontinent. So, due to several factors, the pond had dried up, where the pilgrims come from India and Pakistan out of there. So, when due to environmental circumstances, the pond had dried up, there were a lot of. Eventually, the Supreme Court took a suo motu note of this event. One of the one of the my previous employer, Best Way Cement, and being also an environmentally conscious organization. They were very on this issue because they that Asraj was not their doing, but there were a lot of issues which had led to the drying up of that pond. One of the issues was that since there was no industrial activity in that area before the installation of cement plants from Bestway and DG Cement, um, the newly installed cement plants had stirred economic activity in the area, and the society did very well in the socio-economic terms, more buying power. So they switch from traditional ways to modern ways. And when you do that, there is a lot of changes in your consumption pattern. So the water consumption, the groundwater consumption rose up by, let's say, 100 times than what it was before this socio-economic uplift in the area. Then, as the coal seam in that area lies below the water level. So a lot of dewatering is done by the coal miners as well. And at that time, the data that we had was that more than, let's say, 98, 99% of this groundwater wells were from the community and not by this best way cement and DG cement. So eventually we won that case in court of Pakistan, and the Honorable Chief Justice went on to praise the and since the case being the environment lead at Best Way Cement at that time, it was a matter of honor for me that we defended the company's position. And then there were a lot of sustainable initiatives that were undertaken by Best Way Cement for in lieu of conservation of water. And I can proudly say that the company has done so well that now they are not using any groundwater for the past so many years now. There was a lot of plantation. Ability has big operations of Best Way Cement. So this is one of the biggest achievements that I have had in my career.
It's always inspiring to hear how leaders overcome challenges and use them as a stepping stone for the growth. So finally, sir, as someone who has achieved a remarkable success, what advice would you give to aspiring leaders and especially business students about navigating the complexities of the organizational leadership?
So my advice would be quite simple. Focus on the basics, be open and transparent, and try to be flexible. It's not like being flexible doesn't mean that you always set a goal and then always try and change, because that is not an acceptable way or advisable way of conducting a business. But one should not be rigid, so rigid that if there is actually a need for change in strategy, and they just don't want to do it because they said so, they started at a set limit and then eventually they have to follow through. That's not an forward. So being transparent and means to grow the business is the best way. And all being a leader of people, you should always be open to the idea that you cannot have the best idea everything all the time. So try and listen to your team, give them that flexibility that they can come up and talk to you, challenge your ideas. And this is going to develop a very open and healthy team organization where people would take pride in what they do and people would own up. Once people start owning up the work, it's always the best way of going forward. And I think it's the most sustainable way as well. So this is my simple advice if it works for someone.
Hearing your advice will be surely inspire us and especially for my organization. Your advice will be a source of inspiration and guidance for the next generation of leaders, especially for my organization. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. It means a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.